everybody. Welcome to the League of Unreasonably Confident Women, a show where we challenge the status quo by uplifting the voices of those who've had the audacity to authentically, boldly, and unapologetically love the shit out of themselves. My name is Carissa Lynn Renner. I am your hostess of this showstess, and today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. I have a guest with me named Jennifer Espinosa Goswami, and she says, unreasonably confident means to speak your truth, even if you are unclear or uncertain about the outcome of your words. As Jack Palance said, confidence is so sexy. While our goal as women does not have to include sexy, there's nothing more attractive or magnetic than confidence. And I couldn't agree more. I really think sexy comes from within, has very little to do with your shape, size, religion, race, any of that. It's a confidence that exudes from the inside out. And I can't wait to talk to Jennifer today a little bit more about how we can cultivate that. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome her onto the show. What's up, Jen?
Hello, everyone.
Do you prefer Jen or Jennifer? Does it matter?
Let's go with Jen. Yeah.
Awesome, Jen. Now, we've met before, right? Have we met in real life?
Yeah, we actually met at the Heart Behind Hustle in San Diego, was it 2 years ago now? Oh my gosh.
Almost, yeah, because I think this was like the last in-person thing we did before the shutdown, just about. It was in January or February.
It's almost like we knew the shutdown was happening, so we're like, was going to happen, so we're like, we're going to party and have a great time and meet beautiful, wonderful people, and then we'll shut down.
It was amazing too, because, I ended up working with Camila. I still work with Camila, but I didn't sign on with her then. It was months later that I ended up in her program. But that event was such a beautiful catalyst for all of the evolution that happened in my business during the shutdown, because like we had just talked really briefly before we came on live that, during that shutdown, it left me with all this wide open space, and all those little nagging and pulling obligations that day-to-day life had been, doing before that now were gone. And so I had all this empty space to work on the business, and all of that takeaway we got at that conference and all of the network that we created at that conference was so valuable. And it was like the perfect setup for this, like, hey, everything's about to change.
Yeah, it was a particular treat for me because I've never been to San Diego. I'm from Minnesota, and San Diego in January is the perfect time to visit. So I had a blast.
It is beautiful in the early springtime. Yes. A lot of people make the mistake of coming like right now in June, June's coming, but we get very gray weather in June. It's called June gloom. So a lot of people are on their summer vacation or even, spring break, sometimes in May. And it's really not very pretty here then.
Oh, well, just come to Minnesota. That's when we bloom.
Right, exactly. I'm from Missouri originally, so I'm familiar with the Midwest weather. And I know it's a lot colder up north there, though, than we normally get.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You guys had a crazy winter, huh?
Nothing more than usual. We didn't have the famous polar vortex this year, so we got spared quite a bit, actually.
Well, I would love to sit and talk about the weather, as two true Midwesterners could do all day, but I want to get more into you. So I'm really happy you're with us today. You are a human potential expert, a public speaker, and a holistic coach at Weightless LLC. That's your company. And you help women speak up confidently, both in personal and professional lives. And I want to hear more about this. A longtime member of the 100-Pound Club and a marathon runner. And you've been featured in Women's Health and Reader's Digest. Like, what an amazing career. How many amazing accomplishments. What is your world like right now here at the end of May in 2021? Tell us about you and your story.
Oh, well, thank you. So the 100-Pound Club just means that I lost 100 pounds. So there's only a few of us out there, maybe 1% or so, of people who have lost weight. So that's why I bring that up. I've been able to maintain that loss over time. I did gain a few COVID pounds. I mean, we're going to be honest and truthful here. Like, I did gain weight during COVID. I'm sure most people had that experience. But for the most part, I've been able to maintain the loss. And it was my first time trying to lose weight. So that kind of contributed to my confidence, which we're talking about today. Also, the marathon piece was really important for me to strengthen my mental muscle, because I had never dreamed of being a marathon runner, especially because I'm still medically obese. I'm not a thin woman by any means. So, running had different challenges for me, especially 13.1 1 miles, had different challenges for me than some of my thinner running friends and people who'd been running their whole life. I was barely running 2 miles at the time when I signed up to do that marathon. So learned a lot along the way, but just like many of us, I struggled with my own challenges, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Congratulations on that. And I would love to hear more about how you accomplished that goal and what was the motivation behind staying true to it. Because I think a lot of us, even even from my own story, I've wanted to lose 20 or 30 pounds, and it's really hard to lose 20 pounds. And I can only imagine going for the 100. That's really tough. I do find, for me personally, putting the cart before the horse is often a way that I get accomplishments done. So that marathon, I could imagine it's okay, I'm going to do this. You commit to it, and then you rise right to the occasion. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about what that journey was like and what kept you motivated and kept you committed.
Well, first of all, I love using numbers for myself. So many exercise sessions, so many reps, so many pounds lifted. I like using that for me personally. But in terms of setting weight goals, I never think it's a good idea to have a fast and true number for yourself. So I never set out to lose 100 pounds. I just set out to improve my quality of life, to eat healthier. And I didn't really have a set number in mind for that. So I think sometimes we get fixated on that end result, and that can sabotage us, just depending on how we're motivated. For me personally, if I have my plan, I have my strategy, and I write it down, that's my accountability partner. So I didn't necessarily need to work one-on-one with someone. However, I tend to work with people as a coach who struggle with that accountability piece, and they do need a little more of external motivation in order to make that a sustainable lifestyle change for them. And the second piece of that would be, as you're doing the work, to reinforce that thought process for you that I am doing the work right now. It's not that in the future I'm going to be a 100-pound club member, or in the future I'm going to be a marathon runner. In the future I will be a successful business owner. It's not about in the future. It's about seeing that happen right here, right now, in the present moment, and reinforcing that for yourself. You can use I am statements, you can use affirmations, you can visualize it or journal through it. Whatever that looks like for you, there are many techniques you can use, but you have to believe it's true for you today. And that certainly helped me cross the finish line when it came to the marathon.
That's awesome. I mean, we talk about this. I coach manifestation, and I use the voice as a point of entry. And one of those things that we always talk about in manifestation is you need to embody this future right now.
Yes.
And I think that is such a key to any lasting change or any true change, because you really have to become a new person to change. It's not like you can keep your old avatar intact and change. You really can't. You can maybe veer off the path for a while, but if you're committed to that old avatar, you're going to just circle back to it. And I think that's what so many people, especially in the fitness and health and weight loss journey, go through. I think that's a really common thing. It's you get on the path and you get so excited, and then you lose that momentum and that startup energy somewhere in that middle point, and you just resort back to the old way.
Right. Yeah. And it actually took me several years after I lost weight to embrace my changing body. It was quite different after you drop 100 pounds. There's some skin things, there's other things going on, but I wore plus size clothing for quite a while, at least a year after I had lost the weight. I was not a plus size person anymore, but I didn't know how to dress as a non plus size woman because I had never been not pretty plus, is what they called it when I was a little kid. So, it was a change for me, and I didn't embrace that journey until much later, where I embody my presence today. Wow. It took a while for me to utilize that as a technique.
Wow. That's hard to imagine. I mean, just because we get so comfortable in the familiar that it's yeah, you're losing the weight, you're achieving your goals, you're seeing the changes on the external that you initiated on the internal, but then you're still not fully accepting or welcoming that change, even though it's a positive change, because it's so unfamiliar.
I think part of it goes down to we don't see ourselves as the way we are. I never did when I was my heaviest weight. I thought, I could do anything that everyone else could do. There's nothing wrong with me. And there wasn't anything wrong with me. It was just I saw myself differently than other people saw me. So, even when I was in a group setting and I saw a photograph of myself, I'd be like, is that me? That that doesn't look like the picture I have in my head of myself. So you know how sometimes people joke about, I'm a thin person trapped inside a fat person. I was kind of, I kind of saw myself differently than I was physically portraying myself. So it was interesting when I caught up to it and I dropped the physical weight, my mind didn't catch up to me. So, I'm just kind of off kilter that way, I guess.
Well, it's so amazing how different it can be, our internal and external realities. I mean, I find this with people's voices often when they like start to record themselves or they listen to their Zoom call back, with people I'm coaching on singing, and they're like, that's not how I sound, right? And you're like, yeah, it kind of is, and there is this, I mean, there's a physiological reason for that in singing, which is that your voice from the internal sounds different. It's like you hear it from the filter of your bones and your flesh and muscle and the inside versus what people are hearing in the room. And what you hear from your ears is coming through the room and back to you and being mixed with what the vibrations and sounds are in your head. But yeah, it's quite a different experience to hear yourself recorded, and you have to say, like, actually, that's a pretty accurate representation of what I hear when you are singing. And it takes people a while to adjust to that and to be comfortable in that. I'm curious what you learned about your body in the marathon process. When you were talking about that, it triggered something in me, which is I love to do yoga. And I am a plus size person, although I don't think a lot of people think of me that way. I'm tall and my weight's pretty evenly distributed, but I am a large person. And so, and particularly in my belly, I carry weight around my midsection. And so I find that in yoga, like, I don't have the accessibility to some postures that some other women do and men, strictly because of my physiology. Like, I need to modify some things. I need to, like, for example, child's pose is really uncomfortable with my knees together because my belly is in the way of my chest and my knees being together. And so I always want to, widen my stance and let my chest come between. And I think that's been a real journey for me in learning to love and accept the body as it is, because I feel like, well, why can't I do this? Like, I must not be built for yoga. Can we kind of unpack that a little bit from your perspective in the marathon?
Yeah. So built for whatever. And I've heard this before, people will say, well, of course, that person's a good swimmer because they have the long arms and the long torso. And of course it makes sense. I'm not built for running. I've always told myself that I hated running. I was jealous of the kids in high school who had the asthma note to get out of running the mile at school.
I remember that in elementary school. Like, man,
I'm like, I want to be that kid. And then I was diagnosed with asthma the year I trained for my half marathon. So irony,
the irony manifestation, no less. That's
Isn't that funny? So some things to be aware of. Any body is capable of anything. I just want to throw that out there in the universe. Any body is physically capable of anything if you can get past your own self. And so you may have some things going on with your midsection when you're doing certain poses. So you're doing it to the best of your body's ability right now. And I'm sure you're a yogi. It sounds like you've been doing it for a little while. So you probably are doing it better than you think you're doing it, or than someone who is brand new to yoga might try to do it, even if their body shape is different than yours. And I suspect that's why a lot of people prefer to see more body conscious types of exercise programs or instructors, because they can give you modifications that might apply to your situation. Yeah. From a runner standpoint, I always found really fascinating and curious. I was not one of those people in my running group, and I ran with 6 or 7 other people. They were significantly smaller and thinner than I. They had different amounts of experience in terms of running. Either they were consistent 5Kers or they were multiple marathoners. So, different range of abilities and ages. I was maybe on the upper spectrum of the age. So I'm in my 40s. And some of the women were late 20s, early 30s. But what the interesting thing was, those women were the ones who were saying, I'm not a runner. And I'm talking people who were running 10, 12, 15 miles every week consistently. And they would sit there and say, I'm not a runner. I'm like, you just ran a bunch of miles. How are you not a runner? So I was never that person. I was never like, I'm not a runner. I'm like, I'm running every week, man. And this is all the self-care I have to do in order for me to do this. I am a freaking runner. And I had to tell myself over and over, I am a marathon runner, because that was something I had never done. And this is the wall that a lot of people push past, is like, when it's something you've never done, It's usually the big, scary goal, and you set it and you're like, that sounds good, but it scares me a little bit. If you've never done it before, again, embodying it today. So while I was running my 5K as a training run, I would say, I am a marathoner as I was running, because I knew I was a runner. I mean, I was doing it. To me, that's as clear as it gets. If you're doing the work, you are whatever that work entails from a role standpoint. But if it's something that's pushing you even further or harder, or that you have inhibition about being able to finish or achieve, you have to put yourself in there. And it's better if you can do it while you're doing the action. Our words have power, but our words have even more power when we're doing the action while we verbalize them.
Wow. Wow. I preach about words having power all the time, and you just added a beautiful layer to my awareness that the action pairing with the intention is like, it's like, bam, there it is. And I am is such a powerful statement, right? I mean, it's connected to Om, which is that first sound of the universe. It is how, biblically the God calls himself I am that I am, and there's all these different metaphysical meanings of the words I am, and they carry such strength. And in my belief, from my spiritual perspective, that connects us to the universe. It's like they tap in. It's like your spirit guides are like, you are what? Okay, here you go. So it's like they hear those words and it's like their ears perk up and go, oh, you are unworthy. Oh, you are a marathon runner. Oh, you are unwelcome here. Whatever it is that you're carrying those words out with become very true, even if it takes a bit of that embodiment, that action piece to like see it come forth in the 3D reality. The universe responds to I am. It is a powerful statement. So I love hearing you attest to that.
Yeah. And I will say there's a little contrast there too, because we can't stop the thoughts in our head. They will come. And some of our thoughts are negative. But if you're contrasting it with a verbalization of something that's against that negative voice in your head, what's going to be paid attention to? The thing that you're actualizing out loud. It will speak louder to you. It'll speak louder to the universe or whatever your belief system is than whatever's showing up here, because we can't get rid of what's in our mind all the time, but we can verbalize a different reality for ourselves.
Amen. That's beautiful. Do you think that confidence can be easy?
Absolutely.
Would you like to expound upon that? I want to know why. How's it easy? What makes it easy? How do we get there?
So that's interesting. Usually when we're doing something that we're really good at, we're just naturally confident at it. Here's the hard part. We don't acknowledge the things that are really easy for us because they're easy, right? We're like, oh, everyone can do that. Or, oh, that's no big deal because this person did that same thing. But here's the thing. It's not easy for everyone. And I think it's hard for us to recognize that. Like if it's something that's easy for you, it's probably hard for someone else. So that's what makes confidence easy, because you can say, I am a beast at XYZ. And it's true because it's so easy for you. And other people might describe you as a master or mistress of whatever that is. You just have to acknowledge that that's true for you and that it may not be true for other people.
And I think that's where one of the big hurdles with confidence comes in, because societally we've been taught not to brag. We've been taught not to acknowledge our own, like that is egocentric or vain or narcissistic or egotistical. There's a lot of words. Well, you sure think a lot of yourself, don't you? My husband says stuff to me like that because I've done a lot of work in confidence. Obviously, I have a whole show about it. I love confidence. I want every woman to feel confidence. I want every person to feel confidence. And I think part of that work is like you said, acknowledging what you're really good at and your natural gifts, and shamelessly saying that. No, you don't have to be like, I'm better at this than everyone. Everyone else can suck it. Like that's ego, right? But saying like, I just know I'm really good at this. This is one of my natural talents, and acknowledging that. And every once in a while, because my husband's from the rural Midwest too, and I'll say something along those lines, and he is a huge supporter of mine. Like he's not somebody that cuts me down. So let's put some context around this. But he'll be like, oh, you sure think a lot of yourself, don't you? And I'll just look at him and be like, yeah, I get to own my successes. And he's not quite there yet. He's still in that old paradigm of like, you're not supposed to talk about what you're good at. You're supposed to uplift others and you're supposed to be humble. And humility has been taught to us as this like shining, you know, moral value that we're supposed to carry as Americans. Like, oh no, like, or even just like, hey, I like your dress. Oh yeah, I got it on sale. Like we can't even just say thank you to that. We have to like minimize like, oh, I didn't even pay full price for it.
I hate that response. It bothers me.
It's going to bother me too, because at the same time, it's like just we have never learned to just say thank you and really receive compliments, or to embody them in our own way. Like, I'm really good at this, and just stand powerfully in that statement and let it have air after that. Let it have space, no justifications, right? So I think where people get caught up in the confidence battle is like they're afraid to acknowledge themselves because they're afraid of what people might assume that they are full of themselves. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that comes up. It just reminded me of a story or an example I had the other day where I'm raising two daughters, and one of them is 17 and one is 10. So obviously it's very important to me that they feel like they're strong and capable and confident women in today's society. But I just get this like thrill of pleasure every time one of them says, I'm a big, beautiful woman. And it just like makes me so happy because I'm like, I did my job right as a mom. I don't care like what education they have or where they end up working. They believe in themselves. And what a beautiful gift to pass on to the next generation, right? Whether you have kids or not, maybe there's someone that you are a mentor to, or that is looking up to your example. Like, even if you don't want to do it for yourself, because, you know, not all of us feel like we can toot our own horns. It's okay. But there's probably someone else who's watching you and paying attention to what you're doing and saying. And what a beautiful gift to allow them permission through your example to be okay with being amazing at who they are, just because they are.
So beautiful. I'm just taking that in for just a moment. I truly believe that's where we will see a change in the world, is this next generation of young women coming up, knowing that they have sovereignty, that they have power, that they have decisions, and to know that our ancestors have laid the groundwork for that. We are laying the groundwork. We're stopping some of these narratives that we no longer want to subscribe to. We are healing the generational wounding. We are confronting institutionalized oppression. We are confronting these things that have gone so long. And it certainly, I don't believe, will be cleared up in our generation. But I think, like, you know, hearing you speak of your daughters, and bless you for having a teenager and one that's about to become one.
Interesting times.
Yeah, no kidding. But man, yeah, that like sent chills down my spine thinking of your girls just like taking up space and being bold and being outspoken and lovely. And congratulations on raising a generation of self-expressed women. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So let's see, what else? You are a public speaker. Can I ask you just a little bit about that before we wrap? How did you get into that? What like made you want to do that? That's something that most people are so horrified of. That's like worst nightmare territory for many people. So like, what was the itch that was like, I gotta speak, and what does that career look like for you?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. It shouldn't have been for me. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I was told to sit down, be quiet, don't nag on people. I was always described at school as the quiet, smart kid. So you could say that not many people knew much about me as a kid because I was quiet and private until I joined a Toastmasters group, which is a public speaking organization. And it was a personal development for me. I'm a big learner. I'm a fan of training and education and learning different things and different ways to improve myself. So I joined Toastmasters just on a whim. And I had so many people say, you're really good at this. And you seem so confident when you're up there, regardless of whether it was true or not. I mean, I certainly walked up there and was shaking in my shoes or like tripping up on my words, or I thought I was. But what was coming across was a different sort of presence, and people were responding to that. And eventually I had enough comments where I was like, okay, well, I love doing this. It lights me up. It allows me to be creative and fun and different, and people are enjoying it. So again, acknowledging what you're really good at. I'm good at speaking. Eventually, I reached a place in my career. I worked in financial services for 15 years. That was a whole nother thing. It was never my dream job. But when I lost my job yet again, because the nature of the industry is very cyclical, I said, this is not good enough for me. And I know I'm good at speaking. There are plenty of professional speakers out there showing that it's possible for me to be a professional speaker. So I took the leap, not knowing anything about having a speaking business, not knowing anything about entrepreneurship. And I said, I'm going for this because I know I'm really good at it. And I know I can do something with this.
Man, I love it. The bravado. This is a selfish question, but maybe there's someone out in my audience that may want to have this answer too, but this is really just for me. How do I get started, or how would somebody in my audience get started in a speaking career? If I decided I wanted to incorporate that piece into my entrepreneur journey, what do I need to have to get booked as a speaker?
Ooh, I could talk about this for decades. Thank you for asking. Okay, so there are many ways to become a speaker, and there are many ways to be paid to speak if that's of interest for your business model. There are also many ways to speak for impact, such as a TEDx speaker, or just getting a message out that's really important to you or to your community. There's a whole process I walk people through, and I have a free video e-course called Speak Up, where I share like the basics, like why is it important to speak, especially for a business and building a client base. Where do you speak? Because we're in a virtual environment, but there are also live events coming back. So do you want to do the virtual only? Do you want to do the live? There's a place for both. And then I share what to say when you speak, because there's certain technique that is more effective than other techniques in order for you to really share the right message with your audience. And you'll fine tune it over time, but I share all of that in a 3-video e-course. I'm sharing the link with you in your community. You can grab that and have fun with it. But yes, no, like
I'm excited.
It's a journey.
I'm like, ooh, I love that.
I love sharing
a little time to chat with you outside of this about that, because that is something I'm very interested in. So I'll have to spend a little time with you.
Ooh, I welcome that opportunity. Let's do it.
Yes, because obviously confidence is not an issue, nor is my voice. I'm very, very familiar and comfortable with my voice, but yeah, I kind of don't know where to start on the logistical side. So I would love some guidance there, and I will reach out, and we will definitely share that for you. What's it called? Speak Up?
Speak Up. Yes.
Oh my gosh,
completely free video series. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So I'll share that in the comments of this post afterward and in the show notes later when we publish this elsewhere. To be respectful of your time, I really feel like I could carry this conversation on with you all day. I'm really enjoying this, but I do want to be mindful of your day and as well as our audience. So I'm going to wrap up with 3 questions that I ask all of my guests. And the first one ties beautifully into what we were just talking about. It's, what does it mean to have a voice?
To have a voice is to move within the world. And even if we're not sure who's hearing us, who's in our audience, we're given a voice for a reason. It's a gift, it's a responsibility, and it's something you absolutely have and is available to you at any moment you choose to get the confidence and speak up.
I like it. Sounded like you were going to add something. Do you have more for that?
That's complete.
Okay, good. I just heard you take a breath. I was like, oh, wait, maybe I cut you off. I'm sorry. All right. So if you could give every woman or female identifying body in the world a piece of advice and you knew that she or they would take it, what would that be?
You don't need permission for anything you wish to accomplish in this world. Nothing. You don't need to ask anyone. Permission is granted, girlfriend. You can do it.
You have me so lit up right now. I'm just having so much fun with this. That's brilliant. It's beautiful. I meant to mention permission earlier when we were talking. I think about the body, the different body types and the abilities, the capability. It's like, give your body permission to take what it needs and to take up all the space and to be how it is. And that's so freaking freeing, like to know. In fact, when I created the show, when I was conceptualizing it, I wanted to call it Permission Slip. That was the
Ooh.
original title. But I felt like the League of Unreasonably Confident Women was so much like bolder and more fun, and it spoke to my personality more. But that is essentially my mission statement, behind all of this, is like, I want women especially, but all humans, to understand that they don't need permission as long as they're not harming others, as far as what they're choosing to do, as long as it's not impeding on others' rights or safety. You don't need permission. Like we have that freedom. And of course that's a privilege, and we have to acknowledge that not everyone in the world has that freedom at this moment, but I'd like to see a world that it is. And that actually leads me beautifully to my final question for you today, Jen, which is, please finish this sentence. I hold a vision of the future in which.
In which we raise our voices up as a community to empower, validate, and strengthen each other in our journeys here on Earth.
Yes, yes, yes. Preached. I love it. I am grateful for you empowering my journey here on this earth. It's been so great having you in my sphere and getting to meet you in person, and then reconnecting here a year later on this virtual platform. I'm so, so grateful for your time today, and I just wanted to say thank you. So before we go, though, tell them where they can connect with you online. Where can they get the course? I'll link to it, of course, but anything you'd like to send traffic to, let's go ahead and tell them where to find you.
Awesome. Well, first of all, know that my handle on Instagram and my Linktree handle is at Jen Spingo. So that's 2 N's for Jen. Spin Go, just a shortening of my name. So feel free to check me out. If you go to my Instagram, you have many different options in which you can play with me on whatever front makes sense for you, whether that's from a personal health standpoint or a being more confident in your business using speaking standpoint. All of those can be found on my Instagram profile. Or if you like to go to websites, I have quite a few free resources on my websites, including some of my speaker page and information there. So if you're like, how do I get started with speaking? Check out my speaker kit on my website, which is available at weightlesschronicles.com. Not weight loss, weightlesschronicles.com.
As in, drop the weight of being not enough.
Yeah, let's be free and light, because that's the purpose of being here on Earth.
Oh, so beautiful. You've really uplifted me. Thank you for spending time with me today and making my whole body and spirit all abuzz. I can't wait to go through the rest of my day with this high vibe energy. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye and send us out to our fancy outro. Thanks for watching, everybody, if you were around, and make sure you connect with Jen online. We'll see you next week. I won't be live, but there is an episode airing, so just click that play button when it posts, and you will have a pre-recorded episode to enjoy next Friday as well. Thanks, Jen. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, if you did love what you received today, please be generous with it. Share it out into the world. Tag a friend who might want to hear it as well. And help me end up not in the spam folder of the internet, but rather in the hands and ears of somebody who could really use this and love it as much as we do. We're live every single Friday here on Facebook at 12 p.m. And there's an exclusive community you can join to get all the behind the scenes action. Link is in the comments below. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.